if I may. Sorry, and just a reminder, we are streaming, so we would need to use the mics just so it picks up on the streaming. That's okay. I mean, we can hear each other in the room, of course, but for the streaming audience. Uh, so yes, real quick, Mickey Landry, most of you have worked with me in the past. A few of you are new faces, so I just wanted to do a quick introduction there. As far as bills go, I think that is incredibly wise to have hearings and schedule work sessions and review those while we're waiting for the budget. As far as the public hearings, no more than 30 minutes between would be fine, maybe even 15 minutes for a couple of the ones that I know we have one relative to local school budgets. That'd probably be a big or a quick public hearing. The school building aid ones would probably be longer. And then based on those public hearings and the testimony and the issues that are brought forward, we'll probably let you know how many work sessions that you would need if you could get it done in one work session or you would need multiple. Um, I don't have a bill list in front of me, but I think there was at least two school building aid related bills, three. Yeah, I mean, though you'll get a lot of repeat testimony between those, so it might be the chair could try to consolidate testimony. So those three bills, if you stack them as far as when they're scheduled, you could, because it's the same policy, just different dollar amounts essentially in each of the bills. Yeah, if you, I mean, I'm not sure if it's permissible to schedule the same bill at the same exact time, but the chair could just direct those testifying that if your testimony for these three bills will be kind of considered, so they don't have to say the same testimony three times that day, which should shorten the overall hearing lengths. Yeah, I would give at least an hour for those three combined, so maybe schedule, 10, 10:30, 11, something like that, and then hopefully by after an hour or so, all the testimony will be wrapped up for those three. Um, let me see. Let me just take a.
So I see three bills here that are for school building aid. One is 332, and that's Representative Cahill, and one is 541, that's Representative Wallner, and 546, which is Representative Ladd. Geez, I don't see any of those going fast.
Yeah, the issue of school building aid will certainly get a lot of testimony. Those three bills, if I recall, do have quite a bit of overlap, so there wouldn't really be different testimony for each bill. And of course, school building aid will be something that would be considered as part of your budget package. I would almost be certain that the governor's recommended budget will come up with another policy proposal for school building aid. So what would likely happen is those three bills would either be ITL'd or retained, whatever the committee wants to do, and then whatever this division's position on school building aid would be incorporated into House Bill 1 and 2. So you could really dispose of these bills real early, knowing you're going to take care of school building aid in the budget. Yeah, you could retain. That would mean you'd have to meet on them in the summer, or you could, yeah, correct. Yep. Yeah, and you have, since they're not going to another committee, you have technically until crossover to deal with them. But yeah, those would most certainly be probably end up being in House Bill 2, whatever this division's policy is set on. We would do a House Bill 2 amendment. I think you've got House Bill 332. Correct.
These,
It's more of a follow-up on the 129 question. I thought that we were pretty much set with the school building stuff and we could bring up 129, or am I too early?
which one?
Oh, I apologize.
So
Can
so
I
as
have
far
one
as-
more question before do all of these bills need to have a public hearing, or have they already they have? Okay,
They certainly need a public hearing, and
Okay.
those are, I think, what Representative Emmerich is looking to schedule now and try to
Okay.
figure out how much time to allot for each one.
thank you.
You're my man.
During the last session, we used to hear all the bills together for the hearing so that everyone in the finance committee, will we do the same thing or will we have a unique Division 2 hearing?
I expect we're still doing full finance public hearings for the bills when they're first referred. That would be new to just do a Division 2 hearing.
I just talked to Ken and I said, I'm gonna schedule some of these for next week, and he said, okay. So, I'm kind of lost right now.
I think we'd want to just confirm with the chair. Generally, bills, when they first come to the committee and need a hearing, it's a full finance public hearing, and then would be referred to the division for work sessions.
Work sessions.
Yeah, we wouldn't have a public input session here necessarily. It would be up to the chair to allow for public input, but the public opportunity would be in the full committee.
Why don't I go find out from the chair?
Okay.
So, the bills that, had a hearing in another committee, they don't have to have a hearing in front of the full committee, they just come to a division. Is that-
Correct. So if a bill
Okay,
was
that's
heard
what I
in a
was
public hearing in another committee and referred here as a second committee, a public hearing is not required.
Okay,
The only other time a public hearing would be required if there was a non-germane amendment, something new to that bill, but that would be up to the discretion of the House Clerk and the chair, I believe. But
Okay.
that's nothing we would worry about, at least for several weeks.
right, the non-germane period. When the non-germane bills come in. Oh, that's already here.
Uh, yeah, that's something that came up, if you recall, 2 years ago, when this division was working on building aid. We were sitting on additional education trust fund dollars, and the thought was to expedite those payments, and that's certainly something that could be discussed this session as well.
That would be good if we could do that.
Yeah, and you are right, the tail payments are decreasing. It's set to expire completely in 2042. But the total amount that we have to pay per year is getting less. So essentially, that could present opportunity for new projects.
Full finance will help hear all bills, but if we want to get started on them, we can go ahead and get started on them. Food for thought.
Yeah, I like the idea. I'm just wondering how that will impact our discussions, having that information here and then having it with the full finance. Usually we get a sense of full finance and then come here and have that information. I just wonder how, yeah, I don't have a problem with it. I'm really happy to get, especially moving some of these bills along, but how that's going to impact the typical way our discussions go. I don't have any answer. It's going to, it'll just be a different way of rearranging furniture.
We have some time.
We need a mic.
We have some time, and if you, we may not do it all that way all the time. But if you have some time, you want to get started on the bills, then they can come into the full division. You might want to follow it up with anything, and it'd be up to the chair to say, is everybody happy with what we've done? Did we learn anything new at the full thing because of somebody questioning something else that we didn't know? And if that's the case, he could have a follow-up session. But otherwise, whatever the recommendation you did, we'll have that at the final exec session. But we'll see how it works out.
And I think I would be curious, certainly it's not up to the agencies, but one of the things that I'd found is that we have the present, and again, I have no problem taking bills early, but we used to have the presentations over there, which gave us information and knowledge, and you could go home and spend some time and think about it. You could look at the budget with their discussion in mind. So when we come in here, we were working already at a higher level than if it were a first hearing in here. Does that make sense? Says they informed our thinking and it gave us time to go through the budget and focus on specific things. So it did impact our conversation here. I think gave us a higher level of discussion.
Well, see how it works out.
Yes, Representative Bean.
It looks to me like if they're gonna have to come twice if we do it this way. They gotta come here and then they gotta go there. if we just do it once instead of doing it twice, seems to me to make more sense, unless I'm confused. Well, they may, but this way here, it's guaranteed. They're gonna come here first, and then they're gonna go there, guaranteed. It's just my opinion.
It's two here, they're gonna have two hearings. I have a question, though. We don't have the bills. What are we gonna work on?
Right now, I'm trying to determine if we're gonna go down this new path, how much time to allot to the topics.
Oh,
You guys have a better sense of these topics than I do. That's what I'm asking.
okay. Well, let's go down the list and see if we can figure out how long they might take.
Yeah, that's it.
If I could really quickly, thank you, Mr. Chair. I think I'm new here, but everything I've heard is that we're going to have a massive crunch later, and that affects the quality of our discussions. I would be very comfortable trying this new approach, seeing whether, it results in those types of delays or whether it helps us be more effective at our job. And God knows if it doesn't work, we can always change the process back. But I think it behooves us to see whether this is a better way. And again, I'm the newest member here, so I wouldn't know. Maybe that's why I'm more willing to try this and see how it goes. Thank you.
Mickey?
So I'm kind of just hearing this potential approach for the first time, and I guess the one thing that I would just give caution is if we do hold work sessions, especially on something like school building aid, on especially specific to those bills, prior to the public hearing, this room will be full of folks who are going to be probably looking to testify, and I think that's going to put you, Mr. Chair, in a tough spot because work sessions really don't have a guaranteed public input, but you'd be in a spot where you'd have to say, no, you can't testify. The hearing's at a future time. An alternative that would still help the division get ahead of its work, especially on those school building aid matters, because those are going to be the most complicated of these initial bills, is we could just invite the Department of Education, Amy Clark, their engineer for the school construction program, to come in and just give a overview of the school building aid program to Division 2. That way, when you do hear the bills, you'll be more equipped to understand the program, and I think that'll expedite kind of dealing with those, but you won't get into that public hearing out of order dilemma.
Okay, good thought.
Could I add to that and say maybe we should have the Department of Ed come in terms of have Caitlin and whomever and give an overview of what's going on at the department, and Amy will give us her part with the building aid. And I think that would give us a good start and give us a deeper understanding of the content that are in these bills and the impact that they will have on budget.
Okay. That's a good compromise. Now, that would still require public notice.
It would be a public posted meeting for a Department of Education presentation, essentially. So the public would be able to monitor it, listen to it, stream it, come here if they would like, but it would just be a department presentation to the committee versus any sort of specifics about any bill.
Okay. 3 down, 4 to go. Yes.
Thank you. In regards to the bill that we were asking about, the 129, providing menstrual hygiene products in schools, the text of the bill requires that the Department of Education funds the cost and allows the school districts to receive funds for also providing this in previous years. So that's the gist, the summary of that bill.
I think those two other bills aren't going to be anywhere near the workload as a school building aid would be. I think you could almost do those in the traditional order of public hearing and then schedule a work session. It's still up to you, Mr. Chair, if you wanted to have a work session prior, but I still think you may have that same dilemma where you get a lot of folks that'll come into the work session thinking they can testify.
But we could have a public hearing on 129
Yeah,
and then go to a work session because it's not that big a deal.
I think 129 and what's the other, there's a couple of them here. So 468, I also don't think would be much. And then 550, no, not 555, 207, sorry. So 207, 129, and 468 to me would be less of a workload than the 3 school building aid bills for sure.
So if we were going to have a public hearing on those, about how much time per?
For 207 and 468, I'd say 15 minutes between is probably sufficient, possibly 30 minutes for House Bill 129. I'm just not sure the advocates for that. So if you did like a 10, 10:15, and a 10:30, so 468, 207, and then a half hour for 129 would probably be sufficient.
Yeah, we tried to recodify that before,
What was the last one?
and that was 6 years to do that. Be quite a chore.
So these are strictly public, just a public hearing. Okay, the
Yeah.
last one, I got so many notes here. 468, 207,
Yep, 129.
and 120. My pen's running out of ink. Okay, 10:30. No, I got it. Thank you.
And chances are 129 and 468 will also become budget items because both would require, if this division supported it, adding something to the budget, spending money to fund the hygiene products or to fund an attorney to recodify election. So these bills would almost be disposed of and you're going to put it in House Bill 2, similar to school building aid. So the 207, that's actually just a local impact. That's not even a state impact. You could, if you're good with it, which it looked like, I think it was a pretty benign bill, unless we hear testimony to a different tune, you could probably move that bill along real quick. But the others, again, you can dispose of the bills real quick, but the subject matter will be part of the budget talks later. And I track all that for you. I'll make sure that when we get into House Bill 1 and 2, we consider these bills if you've retained them or whatever the decision was made.
So the Department of Ed is going to give us an overview, which would incorporate 332, 541, and 546. And then we have 468, 207, and 129, starting at 10 o'clock. And then how long did the Department of Education presentation, do you think?
Depends on the topics. If you stick to school building aid, I'd say I'd keep 2 hours, hour to two, possibly, at least an hour. Were you looking to do this all in the same day?
Yes.
Okay. The public hearings, keep in mind, that would be a full committee thing. So that's where it gets a little, doing Division 2 scheduling versus the public hearings. I think the requirement's going to be a full committee.
I can't
Yeah.
schedule the full account.
Yeah.
The full,
So I think it's a good idea to try to front load the bills, but I feel like it creates a little bit of complications to try to do division work prior to the public hearings.
okay.
Once I know what your schedule, and all the divisions are scheduled, then I'll make the full committee. And if some of you want to wait till that, it might just be within the next week,
Okay.
week and a half.
Well, I tried to push the rope up the hill, but it won't work.
One more interruption before I go.
Sure.
You can try to have a caucus for the Republicans down in 212 when you get done, probably around 2:30. So expecting Jason Osborne, but I'm gonna check to see if he's coming.
Okay.
He wants to come and caucus with the Republicans.
All right.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. As I recall, I liked, Mickey's idea and Representative Heath to have people come in to give us an overview. It really does help. It gives you some context. It may not work with the day that you're scheduling here, but it would be possible also to have Department of Transportation come in and give us that bill kind of stuff, just to get to lay of the land, no real, or lay of the road, no pun intended exactly, but a way of giving us an overview of the past year of transportation, where they want to go, what they've been able to achieve. It becomes more of a narrative in which it helps you to find context when we actually get the budget. So if there were time or a possibility to have transportation come in and give us that overview, it'd be a help.
I think my first year on finance, that happened for full finance. Health and Human Services
We
came in,
did,
transportation.
we had, our meetings with Ways and Means, often that was joint with finance, but there was, we were invited to the Ways and Means. But then we also had that just with finance and just within our division. And it's, it's a smaller context, and so you're better able to ask questions or focus questions specific to your section of the budget. So it was very helpful.
Okay.
And you're right, Representative Ebrick, we have had full committee department presentations before. I'm not sure if that's the plan again
Didn't sound like it.
Didn't sound like it. No, it didn't. So I certainly think there is value in having some agencies come in to just talk about kind of bigger picture stuff, not diving into budgets yet, because of course they're still working on their budget with the governor's office, but at least kind of give you an agency overview, talk about some of their major programs, just so when you do get the budget, it's familiar.
So if we have the Department of Education in at 10 o'clock, invite them in at 10 o'clock next Tuesday? Is that,
And I guess the question is, do you want to just stick to just school building aid? Because of course the Department of Education has, adequate education
well, I
grants.
think
and-
they could talk about any of the bills that are coming before us as part of that presentation. Yeah, Mary?
If I may, I really think it's important for them to do an overview of school funding. I think that's going to be something that we're going to need to focus on. And inevitably, that's building aid is going to be part of that. So I think if they could do I couldn't make the demonstration they did for the presentation they did for education, but here it was quite good. And I think it would benefit all of us to hear that if it's possible.
I think, we could do 2 hours in the morning, 2 hours in the afternoon for essentially a full day of Department of Education. Just talking about their state aid programs is, I think, important. So school building aid, adequate education grants, special education aid, even EFAs, charter schools, all of those programs, education trust fund programs essentially are important to this division. And I think kind of getting that refresher for our returning members and that crash course for our new members would be certainly valuable.
Because I think there's, some of those are in the policy committee right now.
Certainly. So there's a lot of bills that could be second referral to us on a lot of these issues. Yeah.
Yeah, and if I can add, perhaps, 3 hours for Department of Education, but then also had to have time for higher education to come in, our community colleges, the university system, the technical schools, and get, even then you've got 3 of them. So if you get 20-minute overview of something from the higher education people also is helpful.
I've got it turned off. It comes through my hearing aids.
Can I just ask a question about clarifying what departments we are going to cover in
Right.
Division 2? During the last session, we picked up DES.
Right.
And I think it was because we had done our work and the chair of finance was our chair. So we just kind of took up what she had to get done.
Right.
Are we going to continue? No, DES
no, so-
will go back to 1.
Yeah. So we're going to be back to the
Great.
traditional agency
really?
assignments.
Thank you.
Yeah. So last term there was some change in some leadership and division members got moved around a little bit. So a couple of the agencies slid over just to kind of spread the workload, if you will. But we're resetting this year was the plan. Representative Weiler confirmed that. So
Oh, okay.
we're back to our normal 8 agencies, which I do have that before you. So if you, that first page that I sent you or handed out there, you see in the third column over, you see my name at the header. So those are our agencies that we're responsible for their budgets and subject matter on bills. Anything that comes through finance would be referred here.
Well, then I guess we're down to the Department of Education in some form filling up a day.
Yeah, I think certainly. Just if nothing else, just talking about their state aid programs could fill a day. Having higher education come in, invite CCSNH and USNH would be valuable, and certainly the Department of Transportation. Department of Safety has quite a bit too. A lot of theirs does fall in line well with the operating budget presentations we'll hear when that happens. If there's anything specific that any of the members can think of that's worthwhile to invite the Department of Safety, and we could, but I kind of feel like DOE and DOT are probably our biggest hitters to kind of get a head start on what they've got going on.
Well, if we can pull this off for next Tuesday, is that agreeable? Because that frees us up in what might happen in the future. How about Wednesday? Do DOT on Wednesday
Safety too.
and safety?
Yeah, I mean, so a reminder, we don't have the budget yet, so they're still working on their budget. So it's really just subject matter presentations, and I'm not I think if you did a DOE presentation on one day and then another day half DOT, half higher ed,
Right.
you'd be pretty good. I think that's a pretty good good effort. And if we still would have 2 weeks in between, if you feel, because we will have bill work. I assume sometime in those 2 weeks we'll have the bills heard and can have our work sessions in here. But if we did want to do other, invite other agencies in, we certainly could do that too. But I think scheduling Tuesday, Wednesday, DOE, DOT, and higher ed is a pretty good start.
Okay. I thought safety was one of those.
They are, and we could. I feel like a whole day of DOT and safety is probably too much, but a morning of just DOT and safety is probably not enough. If that makes sense. Like it's not like I think 2 hours for both of them is probably pinching them a little bit on time. We could maybe do DOT in the morning and then split safety and higher ed in the afternoon, perhaps. Do like a 1 to 4 afternoon, perhaps, and I think that could maybe do like an hour for safety, an hour for CCSNH, an hour for USNH, something like that.
I don't take notes very fast. On Tuesday will be Department of Ed,
Yeah,
10 to 12, and then 1 to 4.
yeah, ish, yeah.
Mr. Chairman, are you looking at the 24th and the 25th? Is that what you're looking at?
Yeah, next Tuesday and Wednesday.
Okay.
And
Thank you.
of course, all best plans, if the agencies are available,
Right, that's
we're not sure,
catch-22
well,
errors.
to connect with them to see if they can set aside the time for us.
You'll do that?
Generally, Janet does the
Janet does,
scheduling, but
okay.
I can, just make sure she knows who to get in touch with.
Well, I don't know. I was lucky I got the dates. So,
So, DOT, safety, and higher ed. Mickey, is that what you've got?
I think if we did on the 25th, 10 o'clock DOT, 1 o'clock safety, and then 2 o'clock CCSNH, 3 o'clock USNH, or something like that would probably work.
Okay. So you'll coordinate that with Janet?
Yeah, I'll connect with Janet and see if we can invite the folks, see if they're available, and adjust if we need to.
Okay. But this is just content overview. It's not budget discussion, just,
Yeah, I mean, they can speak to, I don't even think you want to get too deep into their agency budgets even. I think just hearing about, who they are, what they do, that would be valuable for the committee just to get some of that knowledge down before you start getting into the weeds.
yep. All right. You never know where you end up.
And then hopefully sometime, maybe I'll connect back with Representative Weiler or Janet or just see what their plan is for full committee work sessions. Because the other divisions I would expect are going to want to start working on bills and work sessions. And, traditionally we have the public hearings first. I think that would create a little bit of chaos if we did it out of order.
Okay.
But hopefully if they can't make the calendar for this week to schedule the hearings that's the other thing too. We just need to make sure Representative Weiler is not scheduling public hearings on the 24th and 25th right now as we're in here, but I doubt he
Didn't
is.
sound like it.
Didn't sound like it. So at some point those will be scheduled and then we can have our work sessions on those 6 bills,
Right.
Possibly the week of the 30th.
Traditionally, this committee, how many work sessions did you have? A lot?
Yeah, it varies on the, how we feel about the budget. And it varies on not just these bills, but when second committee bills start coming in, it's impossible, I think, to predict. Generally, I think the work sessions, though, are pretty functional and to the point. We don't drag things out very much. And a lot of things will just get retained. So it's like, oh, we'll deal with that after we get the budget.
Right, because a lot of them are heading for HB two.
Yeah.
Okay.
We didn't have, yeah. We were on, pretty much on budget, presentations. We didn't have, this is odd that we have this many bills
Direct.
right away.
It is a lot of first referral bills for sure. But like we said, we have the time to do it before February 15th. So I think we'll be okay. And 5 out of the 6 of them will end up in House Bill 2 anyways, if the committee wants to pass them, that is. So,
Well, exciting start.
Well, I just mentioned that now that I'm trying to get a little more of an overview of what you were doing here, what you were trying to do is, traditionally, we have come in and had the departments come in and give us an overview before we even looked at any bills.
Right.
So doing that is actually falling back to what's been routine.
What I remembered.
No.
I don't think you did it last term.
What?
I don't think we did it last term.
Well, we did it in here. I mean,
You might have, but I'm talking full finance.
because we have,
yeah,
we have,
we were on Zoom last time during
Oh,
this phase,
that's
so
right.
it was
That's- okay.
definitely
That's why I can't remember.
it was
'cause we
business
were
not
all-
as usual. But
TV doing something else.
He's probably doing laundry or something.
Yeah, oh, man. I'm getting good at that. Okay. So we're comfortable where we are right now? And I would appreciate if you have a card, or a piece of paper, just give me your phone number and your email address. The one you really use, not the one I don't use the government email address, so I'm one of those. And you're one too.
well, no, I use the legislative email address that I have here.
Fine, I'm just saying, I just want to be able, if something comes up, I want to.
I hope I did. That's what's on here, yeah.
I do have
Representative
a legislative
Heath.
email address, which I'm using.
Yeah.
That's my candidate card. It was before I had a legislative address.
Well, do you want me to use a legislative one?
I would probably prefer that you use the legislative address for committee business, just to keep things separate, but that's my cell phone number and all, so.
Okay, I'll get your
Thank you.
legislative.
And by the way, my legislative address is DPM. You don't have to type the full number. They gave me a little alias. It's DPM at.
And I'll screw that one up. And Representative Heath, before I reach out to anybody, I would get in touch with you.
I usually, my regular email's on the back. I use them both because I'm terrified I'm gonna miss an email. But the best one is my personal one, the Dr. Karma.
Okay, good.
I've been using my personal one, but Yahoo keeps cutting out on me, so.
Good.
Mine, and this is my great Comcast.net, and this is my cell phone. so reach me.
Okay, good. Thank you. All right,
You ever got mine?
you're working on it.
Well, mine's easy. house@joepeter.com. I don't use, well, legislative one forwards on. My private. And if you really want to get technical, it's finance@joepeter.com. And my number is 603-793-9055.
That works for me. The piece of paper is good. Yeah. I can do that too, yeah.
Well, the reason I use finance@joepeter.com, because I don't get very many in there. House, I get a lot, you know, because it funnels through the legislative. Because they're all subject to friggin' 91A too.
Right, yeah.
You ever get-
No reply alls.
Right, well, that's another thing.
You'll hear the reason for it from the sponsor of the public hearing. It's certainly something that on its face doesn't look like it's a big change, and it's not something that's really a charge of finance. It's not a state related impact, so
Right, and we're talking about 207. It's almost like most municipalities do that anyway. They have to accept the funds to raise their spending levels.
and I think it goes a threshold of 5,000 to 20,000. So it wasn't, some smaller districts, that's a big amount of money, but we'll hear about it.
Can I just double check? We don't need public notice, or we don't need any noticing to have agencies come in and talk to us. We can just do that without any prior,
They'll be scheduled. They'll be in the calendar.
but it doesn't have to be a public notice?
It'll be public notified in the House calendar. It won't be a
So
public
today,
input.
is there time to do that for next week?
I'm gonna check with Janet. I
Okay.
think we can, if we get it
Have
in
until
today.
Thursday
Yeah.
at 5, or
The fu-
Wednesday at 5.
Yeah, I think if
Today,
Oh, to get the calendar.
You get in the calendar.
today to file, okay, so they do have to be noticed somehow, okay.
it's, I'll just have to hustle to make sure the agencies can commit to that too prior to the posting deadline, but we should be okay.
And just as an aside, one of the things that came up during that whole COVID thing, a 91A issue is you can't, if you're discussing business, you can't hit reply all because it's a meeting then. So we can hit reply all about the scheduling or anything else, but we can't have content about something and reply all. So anybody else have anything? Nice meeting you all. Look forward to working with you. Have a good weekend, and maybe we'll see you next Tuesday.
Shannon Reed at CCSNH had some annual reports for the system that she was just gonna distribute if you guys wanted those.